G'day, listeners and race fans, and welcome to another episode of the Round Bar Supercars podcast, the podcast by the Punters on the Hill for the Punters on the Hill. I'm Bales, and I've got Matty and Marshy on the line here. Don't forget, you can find us on Facebook, search the Round Bar channel, listening in on Podbean, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. All the links are in the show notes. G'day, Matty.
Howdy.
G'day, Marshy.
G'day, boys. It's good to see some faces.
It's great to be back online here, and look, Marshy's gone all out on production for us here on this particular episode of the pod, bringing some visuals to it. So we'll see how much of that makes it to the socials or not on our first time out, but we'll give it a whirl. Big thanks to our episode sponsors, Biti Motors, Cobra Apparel. As you can see, we're decked out in our Cobra Apparel retro jerseys here. Big thanks to Cobra for those for Bathurst last year. And Membreys Auto Electrical. All right, gentlemen, we've got a big weekend in Christchurch at Ruapuna Raceway to wrap up. In terms of where we're going to kick off, though, we're going to go for our Biti Motors Big Moments. So for our listeners, if you're new to the pod, Biti Motors Big Moments is a segment in our recap pod of each race weekend where we get to sort of unpack something that stood out to us here, the punters on the couch at home. So I'm going to throw it over to Matty first. What have you got for us for your Biti Motors Big Moment, Matty?
Yeehaw, absolutely. So my big moment, I've not necessarily picked a single moment from the weekend, but more of a theme that's starting to emerge from the championship, and it's kind of become real obvious from the weekend just gone, is that the championship is wide open. I think we've got probably one of the most competitive and topsy-turvy championships that I can remember. I haven't done the stats to see whether or not it actually is, but the number of different winners, the podiums, the qualifying has been awesome. And I feel like just changing it up a little bit from Supercars has really started to kind of get a little bit more, I suppose, variability in the results and driving some really great action on the races. So that's my big moment. A bit of a big picture one, but I reckon it's pretty exciting.
Beautiful. Thanks, Matty. And Marshy, your Biti Motors Big Moment.
I would have to say the big moment is Grove have arrived. The Penrite Racing team, as a collective, have arrived. Jesus, they had some rocket ships, didn't they? I think there was a social media post. I couldn't tell if it was AI or if it was someone having a joke. Did you see the fighter jets that had the Penrite all over them?
No.
Did you see those? I'm going to have to find it because, have a look on Grove's or Penrite Racing's Facebook pages. There's two literally F-18s or fighter jets that have got Penrite Racing and everything over them. I was like, surely someone's had a bit of a gas bag or whatever. So I'm not sure. You try and tell me if it is or isn't, but I think they have arrived. Like Kai Allen got his first win on the weekend, which was fantastic. Well done to him. He's been pushing hard over these last couple of rounds with a couple of podiums as well. Matty Payne took two of the races out when he should have probably took three out, but lost the wheel. And they also then had their very first ever, for Groves Racing as well, their very first 1-2 in a race, obviously, in race 13. So I feel like, Penrite are now the hunted.
Line in the sand weekend for them.
I think so, yeah.
Massive.
What about you, mate? What do you got?
So I've got probably a reasonably obvious one, given it's pretty fresh in terms of when it happened in the weekend, but I've got the Chaz and Kostecki incident in effectively race 4, but race 13 of the championship. The Kostecki, made a reasonable pass. I guess pushed Chaz wide a little bit. Chaz wasn't over the moon with it. Bit of retaliation in the subsequent little S's section and straight section there, side to side contact, and the final piece put Kostecki off the road at a fair rate of knots across the grass. And when it gets real sketchy is when there's the risk, or in this case it happened, where Kostecki came back across the road Will Brown did well there to sort of avoid that situation before coming to a stop. So it was a huge moment. Chaz, in the last 2 race weekends, back-to-back weekends, has had probably fairly aggressive side-to-side contact. First with Feeney in the Red Bull and at Taupo, and then now with Kostecki. It could have ended fairly, like, it wasn't great, obviously, but it could have ended a whole lot worse, ranging from, Kostecki and Brown having some kind of incident. But what I was really worried about, I was waiting for it to dig in as it was going through on its side and start barrel rolling. It was pretty wild.
I think also too, I can't remember if in the press conference, Kostecki also pointed out that there were flag marshals in that vicinity, like in the middle of the track.
Yep.
So that could have ended real bad, which thank goodness it didn't. But geez, it was crazy. We'll probably touch on it a little bit further, I reckon, from what we got in the show notes. But
we'll see how we get on.
Yeah,
with that,
they're good, mate.
One. Absolutely. So that's my Biti Motors big moment. Big thanks to the crew at Biti Motors for coming on board with the pod. Time to roll on in to the ITM Super 440 plus 37 laps recap from Christchurch, Ruapuna Raceway. We'll roll on in. I mean, first and foremost, before we get to the race results and things like that, I thought they put on a pretty good weekend, and they turned out. So, I mean, it may have a small capacity type place. We haven't been given numbers of people there, but it was sold out on Saturday and Sunday. And there was a real decent crowd there on the Friday afternoon as well. So typically new events in new places will draw a crowd. So I guess I'm not surprised by that. There was a bit of conversation over the last 12 months around, and even beyond, when talking about having back-to-back rounds, that one would steal patrons from the other. I just think geographically, like, it probably didn't, like a North Island and a South Island. I mean, I don't have postcode data to definitely verify that. But being situated next to a major city in terms of Christchurch, and they turned out. So there are some facility elements that maybe aren't quite as either the Supercars teams and even Motorsport Australia might not like, and that they'll address. There's the unique pit lane, which I kind of like its character, but
old school.
It'll come up later on as well. I also like the dust, so it just brings a little bit of something different. And I'm tipping 9 times out of 10 you go to New Zealand and it'll have been that wet and green that there won't be dust. So I don't know, could be wrong. I guess my negative around that, there's a few sections of concrete runoff over the back of curbs. Anyone that's listened to the pod for long enough will know that's one of my pet hates, but hopefully they don't add more to it. So overall, I thought a really good weekend of racing. Your thoughts, initial thoughts on racing at Ruapuna, Matty?
I thought I just love the culture that New Zealand brings to these events. Like, and to be honest, it's everything they do in New Zealand. So it's so refreshing and nice to see that just so well embedded in everything they do. So from the trophies to the haka to the fact that every driver that's from New Zealand is so proud to be racing in New Zealand. So I thought that theme through the whole weekend was awesome. And yeah, I look, I think in the telecast they were talking to the mayor or something of Christchurch, and he's like, yeah, we've got a grant to do up the sheds and all the pit lane and everything. So it feels like in getting that event, that's the start of them kind of really investing in getting things going. So I reckon it was awesome. I did like the little bit of fresh concrete underneath one of the car jacks in pit lane. I thought that was good.
A bit of epoxy that they poured down.
They must have mentioned it like 40 times on the telecast. I'm like, bloody hell, guys, the epoxy's gone off. Like, it's fine. Anywho, but no, look, I thought it was great as well. So massive ups to everyone over there that got it put together.
Absolutely. Marshy, initial
No, I
thoughts?
don't really have any more to add. I think the racing was good. I think it's great going to a course that we haven't raced there before. Obviously with supercars, obviously Matty Payne and Ryan Wood have had a bit of a crack there. Maybe Andre as well, but not in a Gen 3 car. I just think it just made everybody back on that level playing field, and we got to see that with some of these rookie drivers as well. And I know we'll probably bring that up as well a little bit later on. But I think, the racing was good. It made people have to make decisions. It made, I think I listened to the Lucky Dogs podcast as well, and just listening to Brody and Will Brown say how they went out in that first practice and didn't know what to expect. Like they were just like, oh, how's it handling? Where do I pick up speed here? What do I do here? Like you can probably drive the sim 1,000 times, but until you get out there on the road and have a crack, I think, it was really good to hear those boys go. It was different. It was good. It was fun. And it brought everyone to a level playing field, which I think's awesome at some times.
Yeah, it couldn't be any more clear in terms of, rocking into a track with little to no data, effectively, and watching some of those rookies and just less experienced, or even people that have been struggling a little bit this year. We're all starting from scratch and watch some of them, bag and some top tens, put in some good times in that space as well. And it probably highlights something, the championship could potentially look at around, having tracks on rotation. So I know we've sort of mentioned that before as well, because by the time you go from one year to the next, things move on in that space, but I don't want to harp on that because we haven't mentioned that before. So race number 10, Friday afternoon, was our carryover race from Taupo, 37 laps on Friday afternoon. Our top three were Allen, Kostecki and Wood. And as Marshy mentioned at the top of the show, Kai Allen's first win, obviously another win there for Penrite. I couldn't be more happy for the young bloke. He's probably had a couple of chances at snagging that win, and it hasn't quite worked out for a variety of reasons. And he just got it done on Friday afternoon. And it wasn't exactly easy. He had, Brady Kostecki up his bumper for a fair portion of that, on and off for a fair portion of those concluding laps. But we probably need to go all the way back to the start before we
the start of the race, yes.
Sing Kai's praises too much. Not that he's involved in this directly, but look, there was a bit of chaos at the start of that race. We had the start. We had Hill and Jones, BJR teammates, make contact of sorts. Although I must say I like the big number 14 on the side of that car. I know I mentioned that in one of the last couple of pods too, but kudos to BJR for doing that. And effectively our 500 race start man, Reynolds, made it all of 65 metres before his race was done. That was probably the calmest element of what was to happen for the next 120 seconds or so as the field progressed away from the start line and around the first couple of turns, in what could probably only be described as a schmozzle, I suppose. We had safety car boards and yellow flags. Marshy, what do you think went down? You just talk our listeners through it a little bit in case they didn't catch it.
I don't really know what went down. I think, obviously there was that collision along at the start with Macca and Hill and Davey, but I don't know. I don't know whether or not people are saying that there was a call in. People are saying there wasn't a call in to wave flags and things. Nothing came up on anyone's dash, according to all the drivers. So nothing came up. But I think there was a fair bit of blow up in the back of it in regards to like what should we do? What should happen? People lost places, etc. But listening to a fair few of the drivers, they also said that the first thing you learn in racing, especially when you're in karts or whatever you're doing, is you go by the flag. So whatever the flags say is what you do, because we can always have technology fail, or it can bring something up and something can happen, and it might happen only to your car and not to 15 others. But the human element is usually right. So for people to race and then not race or not follow the flags, I think then we've got probably a little bit more of an issue more around our drivers than what we do maybe the safety guys. Yeah, righto, they might have done the wrong thing, but all the drivers should have slowed down.
It's a fair point.
Yeah, I don't know. I that's from listening to a few people and if like obviously a few drivers state that that's what they learnt early on, obviously they all forgot. So, and they all want to blame someone because they all lost positions, or some of them did. So
some gained positions too. Obviously.
Some gained, some lost. But yeah, I did find that interesting that when they were talking about that, that's what you learn when you're a young kid going through, that you follow the flags, not the dash. So
something
yeah, but that's
something else you mentioned in one of our chats along the way as well, Marshy, potentially could have red flagged the race and started again.
Yep.
Thoughts?
Well, that would have been fair, maybe, if there was so much confusion about it. They only got halfway around the track. But you've already lost 3 blokes.
And they drove away in the end from the incident.
Yeah. Well, they all got back to pit road, but yeah.
Matty,
but no other
takes.
My only take on it is lots of drivers were probably in race conditions for the first time on that track. So there's probably a lot. There's just a level of anxiety that was probably heightened from other maybe races. So there's the potential that might have played into it a little bit as well, where everyone was just watching out for everything and so much was going down that it just got crazy. I don't think that's a reasonable excuse for what played out, but maybe that's another angle to it.
Yeah, totally. And I would imagine that in terms of our volunteers, officials, and we need those and we need more of them, that's probably the biggest race meeting they've been involved in as well. Yeah. Some of them have probably travelled to some of the the other tracks as well for some of the GT races, and perhaps have gone up to Pukekohe in the past, or even up to Taupo to work on the supercars once to help them, but possibly not. So something we talked about offline the other day was, it wasn't that long ago that we had the 12-hour situation where,
the marshals were in trouble.
Do we want to give them some more autonomy to prevent incidents, even though they haven't been called into it over the radio? So, we had that big incident and in the 12-hour down near Forest Elbow, and they're like, well, the flag marshal point, the one before, could full well see what was going on, but didn't do anything, following procedure, mind you. Mm-hmm. So we've probably had 2 examples pretty close together where it can go both ways, and so what do you do, and to unpack that. But we got on with the rest of the race. We had Alan get his win, and Kostecki sort of put a lot of pressure on in that space, and Wood showing some signs there in the Toyota. Anything else from the first race for you, gentlemen?
I had Zachy Bates. Sorry, mate. I had Zachy Bates get his first top 10, so he came 9th. So yeah, as we said before, that everyone driving on a different track obviously brought everyone back to a certain level. But he's been pretty good, Zach. I feel like he's been improving over the year, or the 4 rounds as well. But he just finds himself in a mess sometimes. Yeah, totally. And he finds himself in a mess throughout this weekend as well as we keep going. But yeah, I just well done to Zach to get in that top 10, so to finish 9th.
Absolutely. We had ADP and Golding land there as well, which probably sort of foreshadowed the weekend they were going to have. Matty, for you?
I was going to say, I'm pretty sure that Alan led home Kostecki and DJR, who released him a couple of years ago. So I think I suspect there might have been a little. Just it probably would have felt good for Alan, if nothing else. So that was just one. And I think it was mentioned on the telecast very, very briefly when that played out, and I just thought that was a nice little one, because obviously there's lots to talk about on that front, but it would have been one that he probably enjoyed.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah. So that gave us in our top 10 6 Fords, 2 Chevs, and 2 Toyotas, with Mostert sneaking in there as well. We roll on into the first race on Saturday, race 11 of the championship. Our top 3 being Kostecki, Allen, and Wood, a reversal of our 1 and 2 from the previous day. We had 6 Fords, 3 Chevs, and 1 Toyota represented in our top 10. And similarly to Marshy's comments around Bates in race 10, we had ADP and
Juice.
Ojeda as those sort of Chev representatives in that space. I know ADP is not a rookie, but I am keeping an eye, I suppose, on the Chevs. We had Zachy Bates as well, and Rylan Gray snaffled himself a top 10 spot, which I think was timely for him, given Kostecki's been doing a fair bit of work out in front. It was probably a bit of a confidence boost there for him in that space. It was, I guess, a bit of a roll of the dice, effectively. Do we take 2 tyres? Do you take 4 tyres as you're going along through that race? Basically, Kostecki and DJR rolled the strategy that Alan went with the afternoon before and got track position and sort of wasn't headed from there, despite Alan trying in that space as well. At one stage, we had Golding about halfway through the race spinning at pit entry on his way in. And good old Macca Jones sticking the Supra, borrowing from its Land Cruiser brother, a bit of 4x4, locking the diffs and going off-road to get around. Look, to be fair, he did well not to hammer him. Like, it would have been completely unsighted at that point. Has gone hard left and taken to the grass. So good on you, Macca. Alan got to the back of Kostecki, once the pit stop cycled through, but really, despite having 4 tyres, really couldn't do anything about it. So Kostecki, chewed up his tyres and Alan's tyres, that is, forcing him into the same kind of things that in the role reversal of from the day before. Aaron Cameron and Zach Bates both had moments sort of following each other, but on 2 separate corners that they never really touched each other, but nearly both ended up off the track. Red Bull loomed up towards the end, ended up finishing 4th and 5th, but kind of looked the speediest cars towards the end of the race. But obviously, that ship had sailed with Kostecki. Heimgartner had dramas early on, and so he was just circling around at the back. We caught some footage of ADP and Waters battling hard in that sort of 5th, 6th, 7th spot, with the Red Bulls at times as well. Fraser had an excursion off the road, and the replay indicated that one Chaz Mostert had a little bit to do with that. So,
gloves are out early for round 1.
Upper days. And Alan, with those closing laps, was having a crack, but really couldn't do much to eat the gap. Fellas, over to Marshy this time. We can go first around this particular race.
I thought ADP, even though he didn't have speed, he made up 11 spots in that race. Like 11 positions in a short sprintish race is pretty good. And then, he was battling a fair bit there with Cam. I think throughout that point, there was a fair bit of a train going on with some of those blokes as well, like just trying to push past each other to get there. I think there's a bit of conversation around some team orders not being followed through with Red Bull with 4 and 5, but it's later come out that maybe the team orders had been misheard or understood, if that makes sense. So
I think there was some nuance in there that
I think so. If you can catch him, then you can pass. If you can't catch him, then you keep going. And it was apparently never got any. Feeney never got close enough to Brown to be able to pass. So, and Brown was never close enough to Woody to pass either. So, I don't know how that one went down in the Red Bull garage, but there was apparently a conversation at the back stalls. But whatever happens behind closed doors, we will never know.
Correct.
But other than that, I think, a good little race.
Matty, race 11.
Only, and this maybe is a theme across all the races for the weekend, but I thought qualifying was good. And I commented to you guys, I just thought the way they were running it was short, it was sharp. If you didn't get it right, you missed out. And it really honed in on a bit of strategy. So I thought that was awesome. And it played out after this race as well. So that was just another one that I thought was really cool. And you touched on it earlier, Bowles, when you mentioned one of the battles that was kind of for 5th and 6th or something like that. I think the telecast for this race and the next race, the two either side of it were not great, but they were focusing on lots of good battles throughout the race, and you actually got to watch battles that weren't kind of in the top 5. So I thought that was something that I hadn't necessarily seen in seasons of the past. So that was pretty cool too.
Yeah, nice pickup, Matty. We've been reasonably harsh on the telecast, with their graphics and things. Not that they were great in New Zealand either, but that's a good pickup in that space. Just the other notes from race 11 will be, I guess, my question: would Matty Payne's tyre advantage been enough if the tyre stayed on his car?
Oh, he was fast.
He was pretty fast.
He was fast. But then is this another issue? Like, okay, Matty Payne's rear wheel came off, but we also know Red Bull had some issues with some guns as well.
Yeah.
So was it a gun? Is it a gun issue? Is it oh God, let's go back to the sprock, like the
wheel nut issue.
The wheel nut issue. I don't know. But yeah, you'd have to feel sorry for the poor pit guy who put the wheel on it, fell off, and then it's But
they knew before it left. Like
they knew before. You could see him in the background just go,
yeah. It's high stakes, that stuff.
Yeah, it was. Do we have an issue with the guns? I don't know. Because Red Bull are pretty good, and they were changing guns whilst they were in the lane as well.
Like,
literally throwing one. So I don't know.
Not sure.
Space, maybe.
And that loose wheel caused a little fine for Penrite, $1,500 and some teams points. So move on into race 12 on Saturday afternoon. Again, a 120-kilometre sojourn around the track. Our top 3 were Payne, Feeney and Golding in that space. So, look, Payne was just dominant in this race, absolutely all over it. It was good to see him convert the front row start, the all-Kiwi front row start. He has dropped the ball a couple of times from starting from pole or from the front row and sort of headed backwards. So it was good to see that. It was just a good old-fashioned range of mid-pack fun on lap 1 to take in and take on board, which was good. By the time we rolled around for pit stops, Feeney had got himself +3 positions on lap 1 himself. Round lap 14, we had Kostecki take 2 tyres. Allen went for 4 this time, but this time it was his turn to have a terrible stop, and it just kind of squashed the rest of his afternoon in that particular race. Cooper Murray got spun again after battling away on the edge of the top 10 by Aaron Cameron, and at this point, the poor fella must have thought he's broken 25 mirrors and walked under all the ladders and killed the black cats or whatever. Like, poor Cooper Murray. Anyway, good luck is just around the corner.
It is.
We had a terrible stop for Will Brown, which you alluded to, the Red Bull drama. He ended up leaving pit lane with 3 tyres instead of 4. So that sort of held him up for the rest of the afternoon. We had Brody, ADP and Wood just going for it and going everywhere around on turn 3 with lap 26, which incentivised Golding to he caught up then and was in the game after BRT rolled the dice on strategy to put him in that position. And eventually, with 3 to go, Golding got him. So, well done to James Golding in that space. Ended up being a fairly straightforward, speedy pass down into turn 1. And once we wrapped it up, we had Payne, Feeney and Golding giving us 7 Fords, 2 Chevs and 1 Toyota in our top 10 for race number 12. Marshy, any takeaways from race number 12?
This was the race where Kostecki went off and they had to change an engine, wasn't it? Overnight.
With the
amount of dirt that went in there, and how hot it got and stuff. Yeah. So he looked like he was plowing through. He plowed through that after. Yeah, it just chewed up some dust, didn't it?
Yeah.
Like I'd hate to know how much dirt and dust and stuff these boys were. Well, they have to clean the cars obviously before they come home. So imagine how much longer they had to spend cleaning it to get all that stuff off in order, to get through customs. So. But
well, you only had to look at the pit bays after they'd come in for a stop, and when they'd stop, and then it'd all just spew out of the front of it. Or
there's a lot. But no, but other than that, I really didn't have too much. Aaron Cameron lost a lot of spots again. But yeah, Rylan Gray got another top 10. Juiso Jada was 11th, so he had some speed. I think those Premier cars are doing all right if they
They
can.
showed a bit over the weekend.
Yeah, they did, which I think's good. A lot of blokes couldn't get off that start line if they were an odd car, could they? Like if you're 1, 3, 5, 7, like they sort of
Wrong
died.
side of the road.
Yeah. So anyway, other than that, I think wasn't too bad.
Matty?
Nothing more for me to add.
Pass. Beautiful. Roll on into Sunday, last race of the weekend, race 13 of the championship. And once again, our mate, Mr. Matty Payne, getting the win. Kai Allen in second, giving them the 1-2 that Marshy alluded to early on. And Mr. Brock Feeney rounding out our podium, giving us 6 Fords, 3 Chevs, and 1 Toyota in our top 10. A shout out to the undermentioned achiever for the season, Jack LeBrock, nailing himself another top 10. Andre finally had a little bit of luck and got in there. Murray grabbing himself a top 10, which was awesome, and Declan Fraser snuck in to the 10. Now, I do suppose those last couple of spots were helped significantly by the altercation between Chaz Mostert and Brody Kostecki, as we mentioned earlier on. I guess before we sort of unpack the race in its entirety, I guess my initial comment is I do feel for Woody as a Kiwi, having his Toyota Supra give up the ghost. Did that tug at your heartstrings a little bit?
Oh, it was. They put so much effort into that in the pre-race interviews as well. They built it up. They even said to him, as long as you finish the race, you.
Yeah.
I was like, oh no!
It was over from that moment.
The commentator's curse. Yeah.
Really, I really felt for him, and it's like I said before, there's so much passion around like their local sport, the national pride. If he won that trophy, it just would have really capped off the weekend. So I really bloody felt for him.
Absolutely. Marshy?
Oh, it's not the first time a Gremlin's found its way into Ryan Wood's car, is it? Especially when he's been in a really good position. But no, I guess, you feel even more sorry for him in the sense of being a Kiwi, being able to probably get his hands on the JR trophy. I thought some comments from Murph were fantastic. He basically said he's a young kid. He's going to have many more opportunities. We pick ourselves up. How he's learnt and matured over the last year, if that makes sense, with all the things that he's had with Bathurst. He was leading in Adelaide, same sort of thing. So he sort of had some bad things to get through. And it's just another, we just pick ourselves up and off we go again. So, I think, poor Woody. But I also would have to, I'm going to give some kudos to Brock Feeney in the way in which, at the end of it, how he sort of said, you know what, I've been there, I feel for him, I feel sorry for him, and that was it. Like, I do think he acknowledged the fact that it does suck.
Do you think that's now taken some of the heat out of the awkwardness between those teams?
Oh,
hell no. No way.
No,
I don't think so whatsoever.
It's only, look, maybe this is a poor comment, but look, it's easy for Brock to say that stuff when he wins. When he loses, he's a real poor loser as well. So I think that you got to take that with a little bit of grain of salt. He doesn't like being on the other side of it. So anyway, that's.
And I think you touch on a really important thing there, Marshy, in terms of that mentorship, friendship, camaraderie, older brother, whatever you want to call it, with Murph, has just been critical over the last 6 months, but probably in terms of even getting him, to that far. full stop. So, that's just fantastic. Should Toyota be worried about their engines? Or more broadly, should the category be worried about their engines? Because we've had Ford Gremlins, obviously, with Brock's car just half stopping at Taupo. We had, obviously, Feeney's car with issues at Adelaide. That was a Chev last year. And now Woody's car. Now, for all intents and purposes, none of those issues are the same. So do we have a part, a wire, something that's in that
Are they all
space?
saying it's a sensor? Were they all saying it was a sensor?
Well, that was definitely Feeney's drama. Woody, we've never really heard, or at least I haven't come across what's happened with Woody's. It may have dropped in the last couple of days. Peek behind the podcast curtain. I've been away a fair bit in the last couple of days, so I definitely haven't read everything. So it could be out there, but early doors, earlier in the week, it wasn't. So, look, Toyota have done a fantastic job, as all three manufacturers have. But really, in the life cycle of our current rule set, all three cars are still pretty new.
Yeah.
And they've been pretty reliable, really.
Yeah. Big picture, I think they've been pretty reliable. And I suspect maybe the comment is around, like, they're pushing these engines to the extremes. And yes, every now and then you are going to get some failures. And it's just been probably more high profile lately because it's been some of the cars that have been right out in front. So, yeah.
And until you get to that stage, you don't know how hard you can push them. So, there's a little bit of that in that space. Just a random thought to go in there. Ultimately, Feeney got his hands on the JR Trophy, as you alluded to there, Marshy. Question, and you put this out to our followers on the socials and spread it among some of the Supercars pages. Was Chaz lucky to only get 30 seconds? Like, it wasn't that long ago, AGP, that Feeney looped it in front of the field in terms of different incidences, but in terms of driving standards. And he got pretty well torched, on the coverage and in socials. Where do we fit or sit, on that? I might give Matty first crack at that one.
Where we sit? I've bounced around on this, to be honest, over the last couple of days. I look at it, first of all, when I first watched it, I was like, holy crap, what has happened there? And it just looks so obvious. And then you listen to Chaz after the race, and he's like, oh, well, I hit it, then I snaked back, and then I whipped back onto the car. And maybe there's a little bit of that to play out there. I think at the end of the day, I don't think any driver of these drivers' caliber makes that move that's not intentional. So I think some kind of penalty was warranted. 30 seconds put him a fair way back, and I don't know if we'll hear more about it, but I feel like no one was hurt. It could have been hurt, could have been wildly bad, as we mentioned at the start of the pod. So I guess it's the only thing that endures now is that enough of a deterrent to stop someone else bumping someone out of the road? Maybe even later in the season when things are a whole lot more kind of crucial for 30 seconds. So, don't know.
Thanks, Matty. Marshy?
I'd have to agree with what you said, Bars, in regards we all wanted to torch Brock Feeney in regards to an accident that he didn't cause and was just put in a split-second situation, and everyone wanted to get rid of him because he smoked it up and caused havoc. I think Chaz's is a lot different. There was a fair bit of, I don't know how much the wheels interlocked, as he's trying to say. Obviously, I don't know. I'm not in the car. The thing that gets me, though, is, okay, you give a 30-second penalty to Chaz Mostert. He still finished ahead of the bloke he punted off the road. So in championship points, he actually got more points than Brody. So that doesn't sit well with me to start with.
And that does happen in other contexts as well. Like, it's not just that incident. That can happen on other days too. Sorry, keep going.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But it was a major accident that he's punted him off.
Yeah.
The other thing that I get is Rylan Gray got 25 points, I think, championship points off for basically just running into the back of someone when there was blokes behind him. He had no real where to go, but he just slammed on the brakes and shunted someone, and he got 25 championship points taken off him for that.
Yep.
Penrite got teams points taken off because a wheel came off. I don't like. To me, there's a lot of grey area in regards to some penalties are harsher than others when the outcome wasn't as substantial.
Got to be really careful on outcome-based penalties.
Yeah, but I still think
once
the Rylan Gray one though, like he's just shunted a bloke in the rear end and got 25 championship.
Yeah, but I don't know why he got 25 for that. Like, I would have
neither
thought he'd
do I.
still be getting,
Whereas,
a time penalty.
What does Chaz get? He got 30 seconds, but still ends up. How many points did he end up with? Chaz still ends up with 37 race points.
Yeah,
like he should have went zero. Just went bang, done. Sorry, mate, you get nothing.
And it's where my super close working knowledge of the ops manual is not great. As previous listeners on the pod will have heard me talk about, it's not great bedtime reading. But would we be better off if you're not going to go down the points road? Would that be better off being a pit lane, a drive through? Because that's not really on the table as far as I know anymore. We've got our 5, 10 and 15 second penalties, and that's what we dish out. So do we need something that's more than that, than the 30 seconds?
I think you got to deter blokes from just basically, okay, I think my spark it from last week was the aggressive style of racing, but
it's tricky,
but not this aggressive. Yeah. I think this took it too far. I didn't mind a little bit of the down the straight one.
First bit
was okay. Maybe the one, but not 1, 2, 3 to punt the bloke off. Okay, yeah, I got one. I'm going to return you with one.
And all
I didn't
really
like that. That's it.
Is being angry for him getting passed. He made a good pass.
He made a great pass. He made a pass that everybody makes.
That's right. So once you might give him the one bump, maybe you're annoyed at yourself for giving him the space. Maybe you're annoyed because he got passed, and maybe he did give you a little touch on the way through. Right? As you said, you give you one. But once you go 2 and 3, you're drifting into NASCAR territory.
Oh, well, if we were in the NASCAR territory, there would have been a box on in the pits.
No, I know, but that's the beginning of what they then do.
Exactly right. Yeah.
I don't know.
I agree. What do you reckon? Do you reckon the punishment fitted the crime, Mitchell?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure that it does. I think, maybe we need another layer to it.
Yeah,
because we waxed lyrical for the first season and a half of the pod that we wanted personalities in our sport and we wanted hard, aggressive racing. So I think we're now in this position, probably in the back end of last year and into the front end of this year, where we've finally got it up to a level, and then now we're finding the grey area, and now we've got to work out as a pod, but also as a championship, what is and isn't acceptable. And I'm okay with this working through that. That's a good problem to have.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
Alrighty. So, as I mentioned, 6 Fords, 3 Chevs and 1 Toyota to round out our top 10 in race 13. From 40 spots across the weekend, 25 of those top 10 spots were taken up by the Fords, 10 by Chevs and 5 by Toyotas. Now, the Chevs got a parity tweak on the way in to Taupo. Did it help? Did it not help? Hard to tell. It's always going to be hard to tell. There's a general consensus, or at least a narrative out there, that the Chevs don't have as many quality drivers as the Mustang side of things do. But it could also be argued that they might not have as many quality teams as the Mustang side of things do either. And then the next piece of the puzzle is, of the Toyotas, it's really only been Ryan Wood. Mozzie's done a little bit, but really, Wood's been all over him. And for the most part, BJR's struggled. So it doesn't look good when you start looking at those numbers, but I don't know. Where are you sitting on your favourite parody word, Matty? So I think it's going to hang around for a while yet.
It's going to stick around. I actually just like the fact that it hasn't been out in the media and that they haven't been talking about it as much on the telecast. Like, there's a change coming into the weekend. They just did the change. Obviously, they found something, and we'll see how it plays out. So I don't really want to know about it. You'll be able to kind of work it out from the results, and the things feel like they're right. But I don't mind them just sorting things out in the background.
All right, Marshy, any comments or a pass?
I'll have a comment in regards to the parity thing. I don't think New Zealand was the spot to give it to them. Like, we're not going to see any changes because there's no data on. Well, there's no data at Christchurch, is there?
No.
So we won't see.
Based on the performance of the car as well, right? Like, it's not just being able to baseline it against a track.
No, it's previous performance on the last
previous performance
6 races or 7 races.
Yeah, but I think if you've got data at a track, like, they're all going to go to Tasmania now, and if that's where they come out, well, they're not. I shouldn't say they're going to come out and blitz it, because I do agree with you there, Matthew. But are they going to see that there's been an improvement in the Chev? I have to agree with you there too, as well, Bales. There's no chat around the Toyotas with parity because Woody's he's up there. He's at the top. So if he wasn't, would we be having more of a conversation in regards to let's change the Toyotas? Because I'm going to be honest, BJR were nowhere near it, even in qualifying. I think in that qualifying for race 13, they were the bottom of the bottom.
So they were better in Ruapuna than they were in Taupo.
Yeah, but they're still marginally, but. Yeah. Whatever Woody's doing, he's getting something out of the car that Chaz can't.
Yep.
And BJR aren't getting much out of it either.
On fire.
Yeah. I'll just go back to that race 13. Cam Waters having to start from pit lane and then dragging it up to 5th, I think, was pretty good too. He's not having the greatest year either, but he seems to be able to get positions on the track.
Yes, he's doing
during a race.
Doing a lot of passing.
Yes, he is doing a lot of passing.
Didn't he say, was it maybe some sandbagging that he's kind of just trying to go under the radar for a little while, and then maybe he'll come.
Bang! You only got to get in that top 10.
The crazy thing is, he was second in the championship, like heading
3 weeks ago.
Yeah, into Taupo, but he's 4th still now.
Yeah.
So we'll roll into our top 10 in the championship. But before we do, obviously, Feeney, that we mentioned earlier, got the JR trophy, despite not winning any races, which did catch the attention of Mr. Kostecki and the DJR crew after he had won a couple of races across the 2 weekends. But anyway, there was a count back to race 13, and Feeney nailed that. So we have our top 10. We've got Brock Feeney, Brody Kostecki, Matty Payne, Cam Waters, and Kai Allen are our top 5, giving us 5 forwards in the top 5 before we get to Ryan Wood in 6th, ADP 7th, Jimmy Golding in 8th, Will Brown in 9th, and Jack LeBrock still holding on to his spot in the top 10, with Chaz sitting just outside in 11. Our team's championship has seen a little bit of a jump around, with Red Bull Ampol Racing at the top, Penrite Racing in 2nd, the Walkinshaw crew in 3rd, Tickford in 4th, and Dick Johnson Racing in 5th, before the rest tail away from there. Our next event, and we're looking forward to very much getting back to Australia, although we have to wait a month, which isn't great, but we won't harp on that. We've done that before. We've got our Tyre Power Tasmania Super 440, so following a very similar pattern to what we've had over the last couple of race meetings. And this segment and the large chunk of the pod brought to you, our listeners, by Biti Motors. And we'll be back really soon with a fan favourite. Alrighty, crew. Time to hand the reins over to Matty for Cobra Apparel's Snakes and Ladders. So, Matty. A segment proudly brought to us by the team at Cobra Apparel. As we can see, proudly being adorned here by us on the pod. For those that are catching any of the clips, tell us the damage after this weekend, Matty.
Okay, so we've actually got one of the tightest rounds that we've ever had. Yeah, it's actually wild. 4 races, and I'll just go through the scores for where we've gotten to. So Bales on 1-3-4-4 total for the round. Myself on 1-3-4-4 total for the round.
What?
And Mr. Marsh on 1-3-3-6.
Oh, what? 8 points.
8 points different across the 4 races. Absolutely wild. So that's the cut from the weekend. So I suppose big high fives to myself and Bales for managing to somehow pick drivers that were all going to get the same number of points over across 4 races. But that's, to me, that's a crazy situation. Now, when we go to the totals, the craziness continues.
Okay.
Not too crazy, but just a little bit. We've got myself leading on 4-3-3-6. Bales 5 points behind only now. 4-3-3-1. And Marshy on 4-1-2-3, 208 points behind. So look, you've made up. Like we've really closed the gap. I was behind, and then somehow had a crazy last 2 races. I think the Matt Payne, Jimmy Golding double kind of in that last race really got me back. But yeah, look, it was the numbers are pretty cool, but that's where we sit after the New Zealand kind of adventures. And stay tuned. It's real tight, so who knows what's going to happen after this. So thanks to Cobra Apparel. Maybe we might have to have a bit of a chat to them about some tight pants.
All right, we'll see what the crew can do for us. Wonderful. Thank you, Matty, and a big thanks again to the team at Cobra Apparel. We'll be back very, very soon to wrap this one up. All righty, listeners and race fans, time to get Marshy up and about. Now, it's been a little bit quiet because there hasn't been a lot of F1 happening, and we had missed a couple of weeks with IndyCar, a bit of a break there. But I know there's a little bit happening now, Marshy. So what have you got for us?
Well, we've had a little bit of NASCAR. So since we last met last week, we had a race at Kansas with SVG. He qualified not real well, but 17th. They didn't really have any speed, all those trackside cars. But he ended up finishing 36. He wasn't great. He was no show. He was complaining himself, going, "What's going on? Where are we? What are we doing?" But yeah, other than that, sorry, SVG. Hopefully he does a little bit better though at Talladega. A bit of shake and bake, I reckon they might need there and get through. But yeah, so for SVG, yeah, not too good at Kansas, unfortunately. In the IndyCar, they were back. Scotty Mack had a pretty big shunt in P1. Another commentator's curse as well. They were commentating as he was coming down, going, he just needs to get back to how he was. He's awesome at driving, blah, blah, blah. Next minute, smack into the wall. He's just sided it into there. So for that race at Long Beach, we had Scotty Dixon qualified 6th and ended up 3rd. We had Scotty Mack qualified 8th and ended up 6th. We had Will Power qualified 7th and ended up 19th. And Marcus Armstrong qualified 13th, but ended up 24th. They head to Indianapolis, I think, this week, not this weekend, the weekend after. Not to the Indianapolis 500, but to the Indianapolis road course, and then the week after they're at the 500, which is huge for IndyCar. In the F1, no racing still till this weekend. So, sorry, not this weekend, the weekend after. So in Miami, they've just had some new regs, but I'm not up to date in what they have changing. Something about super clippings being either added or not added, and speeds have gone up, and yeah, it's too hard for me to get my head around to start with.
And work it
I
out.
haven't. Yeah. There's been a fair few social media posts they put up in regards to is IndyCar taking over F1, as in a spectacle to watch.
Oh,
Seen a few of those.
That little extra added element potentially.
So
they stumbled across their current formula quite a number of years ago. Like they really haven't made a lot of wholesale tweaks of recent years.
Yeah,
and it's proven solid.
Yeah, so I don't know. I don't watch enough of the IndyCar. Probably I should. But yeah, don't know. But not much for international. Except for we'll get Talladega this weekend, and we'll get Indianapolis in 2 weeks. The same with F1. But other than that, that's it for international.
Not a problem, Mr. Marsh. A big thanks to you in that space, and a big thanks to our episode sponsors, Biti Motors, Colcan, Cobra Apparel, and Membries Auto Electrical. Don't forget, listeners, you can find us on Facebook by searching the Round Bar channel. You're listening in on Podbean, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts. All the links to our great sponsors and to our socials are in the show notes. But for now, everyone, enjoy your racing.
See you guys.
Cheerio.